Playoff football, baby. That's what all of us NFL fans live for. With the regular season, I gotta say, I love every second of it. But for every football fan that loves competitive sports, this is the time of year we all live for. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. I'm your host, Chet, and Duffy to my right over there. As always, Duffy, how are we doing this week?
Chet, I'm doing good, man. And it was a great weekend of football. Won myself some shed on the 49ers.
Oh yeah, what'd you put a parlay on this time?
Parlay, I had $8 to win about 70. Chiefs minus 13 covered. 49ers money line plus money, and 49ers Cowboys under 52. All hit like a bunch of MFs, and it was just free cheddar.
Yeah, what'd you walk away with?
I won that Sunday. I made 90.
90. Okay.
Saturday, I think I was up maybe 20. I don't even remember. Maybe I lost.
Hey.
No, I was down a lot Saturday because of the Patriots. I was up 50, and then I lost.
Did you
Patriots?
You know that sports betting site? That the Instagram page. I forget what it was called. They put your video on there because it went viral.
Betting?
Yeah.
Betting, yeah.
I saw they had put this guy's money line on there. He did a 6-player parlay, and he only put $100 in, and he bet that each player would get a touchdown in these games. And he pulled out with the last player going in, and it was Cooper Kupp. He cashed out. He would have walked away with $24,000, but he left with $12,000. So they were wondering. But I don't know if Kupp scored. I'm pretty sure, like when I watched the game for the first half, he didn't have a touchdown.
I think he did end up scoring.
He did?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Let me check. I want to check just that.
He did score.
Ooh,
so
he should have kept it. Should have kept it. Gotta guarantee that guy's going to score. But yeah, anyways, apologies for the first few seconds. I'm pretty sure there was like some buffering going on. The title card didn't play right away. So I was standing here frozen being like, what's going on? You know, that sort of thing. But anyways, we're hopping right into the show. Unfortunately, we're going to have to start off with New England Patriots. And if any of you who don't live under a rock watched anything about the Patriots on last Saturday, it was a very hyped up game. We hyped the game up big time. I picked the Bills to win in a very close fashion. However, the fashion definitely wasn't in the way I had pictured it. A complete, utter embarrassment for the Patriots as they went into Orchard Park and got hammered 47-17. Your final scores, the Bills walked away and basically stapled the definition that the Bills run the AFC East now. That is the new standard here in the AFC, is the East goes through Buffalo at this point with that dominating performance. I mean, you look at the game, Josh Allen proved to us that night as well. If he gets going, he cannot be stopped. 21 for 25 on the night, 308 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, rushed 6 carries for 66 yards, so nearly 400 yards total from Josh Allen alone. Devin Singletary having himself a good night, and of course, Dawson Knox getting in the end zone twice, as well as several other players. And for the Patriots, Mac Jones went 24 for 38, 232 passing yards for 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He was sacked 3 times in the game. I might add that the Patriots did not sack Josh Allen once. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson were held for under 30 yards rushing. And really, it was just an utterly disappointing game for what most fans thought would be one of the more competitive games this past weekend. But the Bills dominate in complete fashion. Duffy, I want to hear your thoughts on this one because this is a lot to break down.
Yeah, I remember when we had Zach on last week, Zach Drapo. He's also another podcast on Fans Only Sports Network. At the moment, he said this game has blowout potential, and he was absolutely right. And for any team that allows a touchdown on any drive, on every single drive, as the Patriots did on Saturday night, it's a really tough formula to win a football game. I mean, the Patriots couldn't get a stop if they tried. Getting down really early from the beginning. 27-0 was the score at one point, and then 34-3 in the third quarter. The Patriots were just flat out simply never in this game. You could really feel the momentum change when Mac Jones threw that interception in the end zone on that drive. That first drive, I mean, the Patriots, they really had something going for them, moving the ball well on the ground, and saw Mac Jones with the ball a few times. threw the ball a lot on Saturday night as opposed to what he did the last time the Patriots traveled to Buffalo. But just a really tough game for Patriots fans. Definitely some type of closure ending the season because it's one of those games where the Patriots, it wasn't more of the Patriots losing. The Bills just flat out won this game. And Patriots, they just couldn't keep pace with the Buffalo Bills, couldn't keep pace with Josh Allen. More touchdown passes than completions for the fourth-year quarterback from Wyoming. And the Patriots, tough way to end the season, but just they didn't come to play on Saturday night, and that's about it.
No. And looking at this matchup, this 30-point margin of victory and 47 points that were scored by the Buffalo Bills, that's the second most points scored by a Bills team in the playoffs. The last time they did this was back on January 20th in 1991 when they defeated the Los Angeles Raiders 51-3 to move in the AFC Championship game to move them onto a Super Bowl that they didn't win. So that's news right there.
Did not win that one.
No, they didn't win any of the Super Bowls they went to.
Any of them. Zero.
No. So looking at this game, like Duffy said there, the Patriots did not show up, period. There was a chance in the first half. I mean, I'm going to be flat out honest with you folks. I took a game that night. I worked for Fans Only Sports that night. I went and covered LaSalle versus – can't remember who they played. But anyways, it was better for me to go and do that than sit at home and waste my time watching the Patriots get their asses handed to them. Because by halftime, the score is 27-3. And people are already chirping about it by the end of the first period when I went to look at my phone. But looking at some of the replay and some of the stats, and basically the Patriots could have been in this game at one point. It was on that play where Mac Jones threw that deep ball. I think it was intended for Nelson Aguilar, but Micah Hyde came right underneath and undercut it and picked it off, and that was his first interception of the night. But that set the tone for the Bills going forward that they were just going to dominate us regardless. It came down to us making that first mistake, and because we made it, they walked all over us. And and our defense, like Duffy said, 7 straight drives allowing a touchdown. Like, what are you going to do? You got to get, it's just one of those things where I don't know if it's the team didn't prepare properly or if it came to game time and with the lights on them and everything, they just, fell to the pressure. Who knows? But regardless, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, especially if you're a Patriots fan who for 2 decades we've celebrated this team in being consistent and great when it comes to the prime time slots and being under the lights in the big moments. This team has shined. This franchise has shined. But what this game proved to us as Patriots fans is those times don't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. So it's one of those things where as a Patriots fan, we have to adjust to a game such as this, because I'm not saying it's going to continue to move going forward like this, because the team is still in pretty good shape. But what you have to look at logistically is it's going to be a tough battle to get back where we once were, constantly going to the Super Bowl. The Bills have proven they're going to be the toughest challenge to ever reach those heights ever again.
And, I think it's unrealistic for us Patriots fans or any fans of any team to expect, what we've had the privilege of experiencing the last 20 years or so.
Imagine being a Jets or Jaguars fan.
Yeah, it would be painful. It sucks. And we were
Nothing
so
but
blessed.
blues.
But at the end of the day, I mean, the Patriots, I think going into next season, I think that it's marginally and remarkably there's a much brighter light than there was going into the offseason last year, a year from a year ago from this point, as I should say. Because now the Patriots, they have what looks to be their franchise quarterback, and we may or may not know if Mac can be that guy who will lead us to the promised land in the future. But we have a serviceable quarterback for the future at worst. I think at worst he's Andy Dalton, and at best he could be probably not. It's definitely not Tom Brady, but an elite pocket passer in the league. And he's shown that in his first NFL season. So there's a foundation finally for the Patriots, to build the organization around in the post-Tom Brady era. Yeah. And, definitely they can now focus on, using that foundation. Mac Jones, get great pieces around him, We saw them splash on free agency last year. They can also build through the draft now. They have a lot of draft capital and, a good future ahead. So you definitely got to get some fresh and defensive players in there too, specifically linebackers, guys off the edge to go along with Matt Jewett also, who had a great season for the Patriots. So there's a lot of upside on this Patriots team going to next year. I think, there's a lot of, bigger playmakers, a lot more playmakers on the team than in the last couple of years, honestly. So I'm excited for the future of this team. And I think this season, despite it ending, in terrible defeat, the worst playoff loss I've seen in my days watching the New England Patriots, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But, we are in a lot better position than the majority of teams who, whose franchise quarterback retired their first 2 years since.
Yeah.
So Patriots fans can keep their heads up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, honestly, they were never really going to win this game in Buffalo.
No. And that's the thing, because you look at down the stretch of the games at the end of the 2021 season, you saw just how this team went on that gigantic 7-game win streak, go to 9-4, top of the AFC. At that point, you're thinking, dude, this team definitely has a chance to continue to move forward and be in that same position. But maybe if we had that franchise quarterback known as Tom Brady, who's throwing balls over in Tampa Bay, or you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen that can consistently get your team up off the ground, or even just have a team in general that can pick itself off the ground after some tough losses and be like, hey, put the game behind you. Because for the Bills, that was their season for the most part. We were talking mid-season, like this team could potentially miss the postseason if they don't figure things out, especially with that run game. They addressed those problems. Josh Allen
7-6 a month ago.
Yeah. Basically, Josh Allen spearheaded that with him moving the ball around on his own, and it helped give room eventually for Devin Singletary. And we saw that because he had close to 90 yards and had 2 touchdowns on the ground that game against us in this wild card game. But kind of looking at this, it's like it goes into that point, basically, as we said. We can't expect the same consistency as before. I mean, you need to expect it as like from a winning team, because you saw it with Kansas City early in the season where they went through those problems, but they fixed them. And that's what led them to the AFC East title and the 2nd seed. They're in the divisional round as a result because of those corrections and good adjustments to play good teams. But for the Patriots, you're talking about a quarterback that's not Tom Brady once again, who we drafted, is a rookie this year, and he brings the team to the postseason. The stat line's not bad for Mac Jones in any way, shape, or form. So people who go and tell me that Mac Jones is a bad quarterback, they're simply out of their minds. It's too early to tell. This is a kid who just came into the league. Obviously, next year we'll see some adjustments. It's not like he did anything. I mean, obviously, he didn't do anything over the top to the point where people would question his play to adjust to it, but he needs to flourish more. This is his first season. A rookie will never come out and shock everybody every time. That's just the nature of the game and how it's played. Sure, the top picks will shine, but regardless, he's a rookie. He needs time to develop. He needs time to get his playmaking abilities truly shown in this league, because he's shown sparks of it, but it's not there. That's a big thing. And then going back to your point, Duffy, on the defense,
he was also great with Josh McDaniels calling awful plays most of the time.
Yes. Yes.
So,
yeah.
I think the future is bright for Mac Jones, as well as any other young quarterback in the league. I think his future is just as bright as anyone else's.
Yeah. It's kind of looking at Trevor Lawrence, too, and being like, this guy's dog shit. He's not going to do anything. It's like, dude, he's on the worst team in the league. Like, he's not going to be throwing for 5,000 passing yards and 50 dimes in the end zone. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Look at the reality of what these players are playing in. And for Mac, I mean, hey, he's got a great organization, arguably the greatest head coach of all time at his side. This is good pointers for him. This will help create a career for Mac Jones. And then going back to that point about the defense, Duffy, linebackers, 110% need to clear house on them, because Dante Hightower proved after missing one season, he's not Dante Hightower anymore. He's not the same guy that we saw for years was the key piece to this defense, winning so many championships in the last 10 years and getting them into the postseason. And then Kyle Van Noy, he's serviceable, but, he's not the greatest backer you could look for. And Jamie Collins, honestly, I think you just let sleeping dogs lie at this point.
They're all upwards of 30 years old too. I mean, that's another big thing, just age. This team, if with the success they had in the last 10 years,
a
lot of these guys are still on the team, but they're not all ageless wonders.
Yeah, and then but then you also look at what the rest of the league has going on. Look at the Dallas Cowboys going out and drafting Micah Parsons this year. Micah Parsons has basically stapled what linebackers are going to be in the NFL in the future. Fast, athletic, can make plays on the line, in pass coverage. That's the type of linebacker that the Patriots need to look out for, because a lot of these guys either can do one or the other. They pass rush or they cover people. There's no in between. It's these hybrid backers that are really changing the league. You can see it with players like Fred Warner on San Francisco. You see it with
Leonard.
Yep, you see it with Leighton Vander Esch on Dallas too. And then I'm trying to think if there's any other good examples. Bobby Wagner, a longtime backer who's obviously been one of the greatest we've seen in the league the past few years. He's been the top of the conversation in the linebacking category. But the Patriots, they need to find a guy like that. They need to find some backers that can do it all. And, that's another thing that somebody pointed out to me recently. Chase Winovich hasn't really played much at all this year, when he was a big vocal point on that defense last season. And he's a pretty good edge rusher.
Yeah, what even happened to him? Was he injured?
No, he got benched.
Or just got benched?
Yeah, bro. I mean, they just fit. I mean,
he literally made me forget that he was on the team. It's crazy.
And that kind of goes into the point of defense still. Devin McCourty, he's way up there, at least 34 years old at this point. I think
he's probably 33, 34.
He's kind of on the way out the door at this point. I think the two shining players on that defense that really showed throughout the season or three in this case, both safeties, Adrian Phillips and Jalen Mills from the Eagles. Jalen Mills has played great coverage down the stretch of things. Adrian Phillips has been great too. And then Matt Judon has to be the shining star of that
J.C. Jackson guy.
J.C. Jackson, of course. Yeah.
Well, he might obviously even be on the team this year.
No, so I'm just not mentioning him because it's too obvious.
Oh, because it's too obvious. He was already a superstar.
Bro,
he's gonna sign some
but it is crazy.
He's gonna sign some $80 million payday with Washington, and then suck the rest of his career.
They're gonna keep him.
Let's hope, but you never know. We just traded Stephon Gilmore, so
yeah. But a plus
to business.
Yeah, but a plus is you dump Gilmore's contract, free up some cap room, and a big thing that's happening this offseason is the cap space is going to increase by, I think, around $50 million, something like that. That's a lot of money to dish out to more players, and it gives more room for you to sign more players to your team. Yeah. So this could really
but
yeah, this could benefit the Patriots in terms of if they really want to go make a splash in free agency. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of players looking to get on new squads this year.
Yeah, there definitely will be, as there are every year. But one thing we didn't even mention, this whole Pats Bills segment. I just gotta say, I saw the stats today. Bills have won 12 games. Every game they've won this year has been by at least 12 points.
Yeah,
I just think that's a crazy stat.
Yeah,
when they win games, they just play so much better. Like you said, Chet, when Josh Allen gets hot, he's going to get hot.
Yeah, and he can't be stopped.
We'll foreshadowing one of my picks later on the show, but
I mean,
and a good team.
And kind of going back, this is my final thought on basically everything. You look at the Patriots end of the season, the Bills end of the season. The Bills had their woes mid-season, and then they turned it around in the last 4 games, won 4 straight to get to the third seed in the AFC and win the division. The Patriots dropped 4 out of 5. At this point now, it's 5 out of 6. So, it kind of goes to show where the teams peaked, and the Bills are peaking right now. This is the hottest they're going to be all year, and they could continue that going forward. Yeah. But like we said, this is an organization that has proven that they can come into Foxborough and defeat the Patriots and basically show everybody the East is ours, and it's going to be ours for quite some time. So it's an adjustment we all have to accept. And that's the bottom line, really, that we saw from this game was just complete, utter domination. I wish we could go into detail even more, but I mean, for the most part, that's all it was. Bills.
Just Bills from the opening kickoff, and they deserve to win this football game. Played, outstanding football, one of the best games you'll ever see from a team, by any means. And Josh Allen, if you didn't think he was elite before last Saturday night, you thought he was having a little off year, he had a few bad games, you're dead wrong. Top 4 quarterback in the NFL, and we're going to deal with him twice a year the next however long he's in Buffalo.
They're going to keep him forever, dude. That guy's ending his career with the Bills. Yeah. Guaranteed.
Good. He should.
Yeah. He's proven that he's one of the best quarterbacks, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for him going forward. But obviously, still hate the Bills to this day. Like I hate the rest of the AFC East.
Exactly.
But that concludes our Patriots segment. Once again, the Patriots fall to the Bills last Saturday by a final score of 47-17. Their season is officially over, and now they look towards the offseason and what improvements they could make there, as we just discussed. We'll continue talking about that as the weeks go on. But obviously, you folks want to hear about primetime NFL playoffs, and we won't keep you waiting. So kind of looking at the first game slot, first game of the weekend, Bengals and Titans. This is drawn up, and honestly, when I was writing my article today on the divisional round preview, we could see quite a juicy game out of this one. This could be one of the best games this weekend, really, because you're talking about Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon going to town, doing their offensive push that they do every single season. But then for the Titans, Ryan Tannehill, sure, you could say he's mediocre, but he's proven that he can still be a starter and produce wins for a team. Then you got Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and now potentially Derrick Henry did play yesterday with contact in practice. All signs point for him to be activated off of IR. So if he plays, this could be a huge offensive juggernauted game that we could see coming into fruition this weekend.
I just love if I love the over in any game, it's probably this one. Like you said, Chet, 2 explosive offenses, or explosive if Derrick Henry is playing. I mean, that's probably going to be the idea that he does play, because it is the playoffs. It's Derrick Henry, and the Titans in the last couple of years, if they're going to win a playoff game, it's because they have that guy, number 22 in the backfield. So this game in Nashville, Titans first number 1 seed appearance / home first round bye. I mean, in 13 years, and
crazy.
This team, neither of these teams are, I would say, seasoned in the playoffs. Titans have been in the last couple of years, won a couple of games in 2019, but both these teams pretty young, pretty new to the playoffs. The Titans are 3.5-point favorites at home. I mean, I think on paper the Titans are probably the better team on defense. On offense too, if you're looking at the rosters themselves, not on offense, but with Derrick Henry on offense, because the stats are completely different when he's there versus when he's not.
Yeah.
So with Derrick Henry back, I think the Titans just try to do what they've done the last couple of postseason runs and just feed Derrick Henry the football. We saw him a couple of years ago against the Ravens in the divisional round, against the Patriots in the wild card round. Getting 35, 40 touches a game and just draining clock. And I think against a team like the Bengals, team that can go up down the field on you any second they want, really, with all their talent they have on the outside and in the backfield too, with Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow. I mean, they just are a really talented offense, and I think the Titans with Mike Vrabel, who loves to just take time off the clock in these playoff games. We saw them absolutely burn the Patriots with that in the wild card round 2 years ago.
Yep.
I think
time of possession.
Yeah, literally just absolutely destroying time of possession. So I think in a game like this against the Bengals, against Joe Burrow, who's been on fire lately, I think 10 touchdown passes in his last 3 games. You got to do that. So This game is really tough for me to even predict.
Yeah.
But I like the Bengals in overtime. With all that being said, I think the Bengals are going to win this game in overtime. And I think maybe not overtime because I feel like I always have to throw in overtime every single week to just emphasize how close the game's going to be. But Bengals win this game. They're going to their first AFC championship in 33 seasons, and it's going to be hype.
They went 2 years ago, I thought.
Bengals, they've won a playoff game since 1990.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about the Titans. No, my bad. Bengals. I got confused. Gotcha.
I was just thinking in my head, when was the last time the Titans did? And it was, like you said,
2 years ago.
But, yeah, man, give me the Bengals. In an upset, huge upset.
Yeah. I mean, looking at last week's game against the Raiders, I had picked the Raiders to win this one, but obviously
you did.
I liked Las Vegas. They brought a lot to the table this postseason, proved that, hey, they deserve a chance in the dance. But obviously, I mean, this game could have gone their way, but there was a lot of issues of them with their drives and their play calls that really allowed Cincinnati to kind of do whatever they wanted for the most part in the first half going into that second half. Because once that first half ended, the score was 20-13, which isn't horrible, but obviously those points didn't get scored until the end of the first half by Las Vegas. Yeah. So I mean, and Joe Burrow showed us in that game that he's a stud. That sideline throw where he narrowly almost stepped out and delivered a dime to Tyler Boyd in the end zone.
That was kind of bullshit, though. They
picture perfect. I know. It's so stupid. So dumb.
That was terrible. That was terrible officiating. Those guys aren't going to do a game the rest of the playoffs, though, is what they're saying.
It's that bad. The officiating crew was terrible in that game. And looking at the stat line, Joe Burrow, he only threw for 244. Derek Carr beat him out with 310 in that game. He threw for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mixon struggled in this one, 17 carries for 48 yards, no touchdowns. But Jamar Chase on 12 targets had 9 catches for 116 yards once again. And I mean, the thing that I love so much about this Bengals unit is it's just very balanced. And T. Higgins has proven he can be a fringe star in this league, and Jamar Chase proved he's a stud. He's going to be the talk of the league for years to come at this point. And Joe Mixon, he's still a top 10 running back in my opinion. He's probably top 10, top 15.
Definitely.
And Joe Burrow is putting himself in the conversation now to be a top 10, top 15 quarterback.
Definitely a top 10 quarterback. I mean, that's how I'm going with them. I'm going with the hot hands. And I think the Titans, they're kind of a team where they didn't really have any pretty wins. They had definitely more ugly losses than pretty wins. And in recent memory, in second half of the year for sure. First half of the year, they beat the Bills, they beat the Titans, they beat the Colts twice too. They beat some good teams. Not the Titans. I meant to say the Chiefs. They beat some good teams.
Gotcha.
And that's why they're the number 1 seed. But last month of the season, or last half of the season, they lost to the Texans. Almost lost to them twice, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to the New York Jets at one point. There was some other game they lost. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-13. Ugly games. They've had some ugly games. So I think the biggest X factor in this game is how well Derrick Henry's playing the ball, how healthy he looks. Because if they stop the run, Tennessee, or if Cincy stops the run or limits it to a reasonable degree, I think Cincinnati Bengals are going to be tough to keep up with in this game if they can get the run game going really.
And kind of looking at the Tennessee Titans in this one, once again, obviously, if Derrick Henry's going, Titans are going to win the game. That's just the way we've seen it painted every way, shape, and form whenever this guy comes to play. But when you look at the Tennessee Titans from this season, like you said, they had some ugly losses, but they had some dominating wins against some really good teams. You beat the Colts twice. That's a really tough divisional opponent. You narrowly beat the Bills 34-31.
Bills. That was the other team I was thinking of.
The Chiefs, you kill 27-3. You kill the Rams 28-16. And then to end the season, you narrowly defeat the Niners 20-17 on Thursday night. For me, I'm taking the Titans in this one, not because I doubt Joe Burrow's ability, but for me, Mike Vrabel is no stranger to the playoffs. And same with this Titans team. They're no stranger to the playoffs. Sure, they got bounced right away in that game last year against the Ravens, but we've seen that this team is experienced. And what we saw last week in the wild card round was experience trumps all. It really does. And the Bills proved it. I mean, you could say they proved it. Patriots would prove it too, but the Bills came game prepared. Cowboys, absolutely not prepared for the postseason. This was a team that would literally just destroy all of its divisional opponents and not have a worry in the world about winning that division whatsoever. When it came to playing tough teams in Kansas City, final score 19-9, Cowboys lose. Like, get out of here. You should have stayed in that game if you're one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. Don't give me excuses. Niners, they were in a Super Bowl 2 years ago under Jimmy Garoppolo, having basically the same unit they have now. This is a team that proved they can be in the postseason once again. Rams, same thing. Cardinals, never been there before until now, really, and years before when Carson Palmer was there. Matt Stafford hasn't been in a postseason game since he was on the Detroit Lions, but regardless, this Rams team has. Doesn't matter. In this one,
Sean McVay has too.
Yeah, John McVay has.
I had the Rams, dude, all week, and I just put money on the Cardinals last second.
Yeah. Thing is,
so stupid.
I love the Bengals. I'll give you that. But this is not their year. Give them another season, and I will change my mind on this point. But I'm taking the Tennessee Titans in this one. Final score of 31-27.
See, I think it's there. I don't think it's the Bengals' year at all. I think if they win this game, they're going to lose to Bills or Chiefs no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real AFC championship in Kansas City this weekend. So
yeah,
I think this game is kind of just the right to whoever loses the AFC championship. I mean, the Titans would have the home field in that game, but it'd be tough picking against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
It'd be easier to pick against Josh Allen than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Especially because the Titans already beat both those teams this season.
Exactly.
So very, very different teams then. And I think this is a very different Bengals team too.
Yeah, I agree.
The Bengals, they did start 5-2. They had their midseason slump. They were 7-6 at one point. Their last loss was against the 49ers about over a month ago. They've won their last 5 games against the Titans, who have to, get some synergy back on offense, get back in the rhythm of things. I just think the Bengals are clicking too hard right now. Titans, they're rested, sure, they're at home, but I don't know, man. I mean, we've seen the Titans. They were the last team to knock off a number 1 seed, I believe, in the divisional round.
I mean, the Bengals right now from the regular season boasted the 4th best in total offensive yards allowed to rushing. This is for their defense. But passing, 4th best in the league. However, passing, bottom tier in the league. So, I mean, I think the way they could win this game is obviously Ryan Tannehill's no Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. So you force him to throw that ball a lot. If you can shut down Derrick Henry, you can win the game if he makes a mistake.
That's the thing, though. I think if the Titans win this game, they don't score as many points as you projected. I think if they win this game, they're going to have to pound the rock a lot.
Yeah.
They have to keep it low scoring. I think if they win this game, I think it would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of 24-21 maybe.
Mm-hmm. Probably similar to that Patriots score we saw 3 years ago now.
Yeah. 14-13.
Yeah.
Fuck that game, dude.
Yeah. Fuck that game. Terrible game. Anyways, that concludes.
Fuck the Titans.
Yeah. Screw the Titans. Now, to look at the game that's going on later that night at 8:15, San Francisco heading out to the chilly, cold air of Wisconsin over in Green Bay, taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. This one's going to be a great game. This could be one of the best games of the weekend, in my opinion, maybe even one of the top ones to watch. Yeah. The Niners coming in hot at the end of the season, defeat Dallas in what ended up being a pretty dramatic ending. But what we saw was definitely not totally what we thought would happen with that Niners game, because the way it started was the Niners were really dominating. It didn't really start until the second half where they cooled off a lot, and then Cowboys creeped their way back in, nearly getting themselves in a position to score on them and win the game, essentially. Yeah. So going into this one, the Niners look shaky because Jimmy Garoppolo, he wasn't that sharp last weekend, in my opinion. I don't think he was the sharpest tool in the shed that we could have expected out of him in that win.
You could say he wasn't sharp, but manageable. Got the job done.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Chet, experience.
Yeah.
He knows how to manage a game in the playoffs, how to take care of a playoff team, and win the game.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to happen. I picked the Niners last week. Like I said earlier on the show, want me some Ched. Say to my cat Tiger. But he was just telling me that he thinks the Niners are going to lose this game in Green Bay, but cover the spread +6.
Yeah, right now the spread's favored of the Packers -5.5 on this one. And kind of looking back at the Niners stat line from that game, Jimmy Garoppolo had no touchdown passes in that game, 16 completions for 25 attempts for 172 yards. He did throw an interception in this one, but Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel carrying the team to the win, really. 27 carries for Mitchell on 96 yards and a touchdown, and then Deebo on 10 carries at 72 yards and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel and that receiving core, they've proven they can be deadly. But Deebo Samuel is the vocal point of that offense. If the Packers can shut him down, I definitely think we can see them win this game. But for me, the Packers, they're just in too much of a favorable territory for them to really be concerned about losing this game. I mean, the Niners do bring a lot of punch to the table, but I do not think they're the same San Francisco 49ers that blew them out 2 years ago in San Francisco. For me, this Packers team's probably going to deliver that punch this week. I think Aaron Rodgers is just in the limelight at this point. He's too much in a prime territory for him to fail, to go this far and fail in the first round with the team he's got behind him. Devontae Adams has been brilliant. The split of the carries between A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones has been excellent all season. Even with Jones going down at one point, the run game was still consistent. The pass secondary is pretty solid. The pass rush linebacking core is decent. It's not the greatest, but it gets them where they need to be. And Aaron Rodgers is just Aaron Rodgers. He does the job whenever he can. And I think, I don't know if they're going to walk all over them, but for me, they either win this game by a touchdown or 10 points.
Yeah, I think the Packers are winning this game. I think the Niners keep it close because, like you mentioned, the Niners blew them out in the NFC Championship 2 years ago, blew them out in the regular season 2 years ago too, and played in San Fran this year and was really had a chance to win the game until the last 28 or something seconds, where Rodgers just did his thing and marched the Packers down on the field for a game-winning field goal. So I think in this game, I think Green Bay is just going to have to contain the run, which they seemingly never able to do against San Francisco. These two coaches, they know each other well. Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan know each other very well, and I just think that Green Bay, like you were saying, Aaron Rodgers has a lot this season, a lot of momentum. Back-to-back MVPs was looking like almost certain to win at this point.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Tom Brady's case, but it might help him win a Super Bowl again.
Yeah, and back-to-back number one seeds in the NFC. I think this Packers team, I think, is better than the one they had last year.
100%.
All around, they're just a way better team than last year. Rodgers he made them look better last year with the season. He had 48 touchdowns last season to just 5 picks. This season, 37 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's looked phenomenally since that week 1, diarrhea.
38-3 loss to the
Jacksonville
Saints
against the Saints. Yeah, 13-2 since, or 13-3 since for the Packers, and they've just looked incredible this season. I think it's the Niners. I think Rodgers gets his revenge on this team, who he's 0-3 against in the playoffs. By the way, remember the first 2 times he lost was against Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
So I think A-Rod is going to host the NFC Championship in Lambeau for the 2nd straight season, and
3rd straight time.
Niners keep it close, though. They will keep it close. This run game is really good. This defense is really solid. And we saw Fred Warner go down with an injury,
but he came back.
Cowboys, but he did come back. So hopefully he is in full shape. If the 49ers do want to win this game, and I think this game hits the under. I think it's hit the under. It's currently at 47.5. I don't think the Packers are going to score as many points as you might imagine. I think it's going to be one of those games where the smarter head coach wins, and the Green Bay is going to take care of business. I think, like you were saying, Chet, I think they could come up win this game by 10. I think it would be if they were up late in the game and they just had a security touchdown at the end of the game. And Packers will go to the NFC Championship. And Aaron Rodgers will be one game away once again from his second Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah. I mean, kind of just looking at the way the matchups build up to, like he said, he basically took all the words out of my mouth in that one. I mean, Packers just have too much momentum on them. This Packers team looks spectacular. I mean, last season they were good, but this year way better.
They've just gotten better every single year in the Matt LaFleur era.
Yeah,
they were 2019 2 years ago, but they weren't really that good of a team.
No
one thought they were going to beat the Niners.
They were the third seed that year, I believe.
They were the second seed, but they were 13-3 teams. They were the second seed, but no one thought they were beating the Niners. No one thought they were going to beat the Saints, and they've just gotten steadily better each of the last 3 years. It's been really impressive.
Yeah. So for me, I'm taking the Packers in this one. I think my final score in this game is going to be a score of, I'm going to go 28-24.
28-24, respectable. I'm going to say Packers win this one 23-18. Something cheeky. We'll get a weird score between two young coaches. We'll get a weird 2-point conversion in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like the call. It's a good pick.
Think about it. It would be so Niners if they just drove down the field, scored a touchdown, and went for two early.
That would be kind of ridiculous. It would be
so like Chargers or some shit too,
Yeah. And I mean, kind of looking at this game, the Niners, they have a pretty good, like we've said before on the show, they've had a solid run game all season. Deebo Samuel just elevates it more. But if they mix it up more and involve more running backs in this game, they could really put the Packers on an uneasy edge to have to deal with three different types of attacks from the run game and even through the air. But it's going to come down to Jimmy Garoppolo. Can he make the big plays when the team calls for it? Because people are questioning him at this point. I mean, he's gotten them to the Super Bowl. They haven't won, but now he's been riddled with injuries. He had a finger injury going into this game still, and they won, but no touchdowns. So they're going to need a much more impressive outing from Jimmy G if they're going to take down Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field on Saturday. Absolutely. So now to move into the Sunday slot here, we're going to talk about that Rams-Bucks game because this also has potential to be a very, very good game. I'm excited for this one. Tom Brady taking on Matt Stafford. Pretty quality matchup here. Not something we would have expected in the postseason ever in our lifetime, really, but we have it.
Literally.
And we'll talk about the Bucks game last week real quick. I mean, for the most part, Bucks dominated the Eagles every way, shape, and form. The 15 points that the Eagles added onto the scoreboard didn't come until the fourth quarter when the Bucks already put up 31 points on them. It was 31-0 by the end of the third. Tom Brady, 29 for 37, 271, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times, so that's something to keep an eye on. But the run game was solid coming from Keyshawn Vaughn and Giovanni Bernard. The team posted over 100 yards rushing on the ground game. And then Mike Evans, 9 catches, 117 receiving yards for 1 touchdown. And Gronk even got in on the fun with the TD himself. But the Bucks have proven that they can still win games with those backup running backs, and it only paves the way for Leonard Fournette to come back this week and really be serviceable in their favor for this one.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams coming off of really impressive victories. A wild card weekend, the Rams also beating the Arizona Cardinals 34-11. Just 2 really good teams in another rematch of the regular season. 3 out of 4 games this weekend are rematches from the regular season. Mm-hmm. And the Rams winning the first one in Los Angeles. Going to Tampa this time around, though. They're riding kind of hot right now, the Rams. Looking pretty good as of late. But the only thing is with, the Rams is the biggest story in, how they're going to lose games recently is just of Matthew Stafford's play.
Yeah.
We saw him throw 6 picks, I think, in the last 3 games of the regular season. Multiple games with pick sixes this season for the 13-year veteran. And going into Tampa Bay, you can't make those mistakes if you want to win this game.
No.
These are the defending champs against Tom Brady in the postseason for the right to either play the Niners or Packers. Winner of this game, they're poised to make the Super Bowl potentially.
Yeah.
So I think these were definitely the two top teams in the NFC probably in September once upon a time.
Yeah.
And the Rams really looked like it when they did this in the background. They beat Tom Brady back in week 3, but
yeah,
I just can't pick against Tom Brady in the playoffs at home. I can't do it. I think they're going to win this game, and I honestly think they're going to cover the spread at -2.5 in Tampa Bay. I love Sean McVay as a coach. I think if any coach can do it, upset Tom Brady on the road, I think he's among the few that could. But I just don't trust Matthew Stafford, man. And I think it's similar to if it would be the same thing as if he was playing in Green Bay this week.
Yeah.
I couldn't pick him in the playoffs against Aaron Rodgers in the cold or Tom Brady just being in the playoffs. So until he does something that proves to me that I can choose him to win a playoff game and go to the NFC Championship, then I'll pick him. If he wins this game, I think the Rams can go to the Super Bowl, 100%.
Yeah.
I think this is a tougher matchup, I think, for the Rams than the Packers.
And looking at the Rams in last week's game, I mean, Matt Stafford didn't have to throw a whole lot. He had 13 passes completed on 17 attempts for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was only sacked once in that game, I might remind you. However, a solid run game that accumulated over 140 rushing yards, 50 coming from Cam Akers and Sony Michel. And Matt Stafford even had himself a rushing touchdown and 6 carries for 22 yards. And both of those passing touchdowns going to Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham. And the defense playing solid throughout. They only allowed scoring until the second half. That's what we've seen from both defenses so far. This game could honestly, I feel, in my opinion, probably be a very defensive game. I think that's what it's going to come down to, because these are 2 Super Bowl championship caliber defenses. Bucs are going to be expecting Devin White back. I'm not sure if he played last weekend, but you're getting those pieces back that were injured for most of the season. And this is the time they need to be back, is for a game like this. And looking at this one, once again, Duffy, you're 100% correct. Matt Stafford's the X factor of the Rams. If he's playing good, they're playing good. So that's what they're going to need to look for, because a balanced run game from both Cam Akers and Sony Michel is going to work out as it is. For the Bucs, run game with Leonard Fournette and switching up to Keyshawn Martin, Giovanni Bernard is going to work out well. And the passing game from both, like, come on, you got weapons beyond the eye can see in this one for you to go to and really put on a show. But this one could be a lot more narrower than we are going to imagine. For me, I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go the high-scoring route in this one, because I think both quarterbacks are too good to really take the defensive side out of the equation. I could be wrong. We did see Brady defeat the Rams in the Super Bowl. However, that final score is 17-10. This one, I'm going to take a final score of 35-31. Brady leads them on a last-minute drive to win the game, and the Bucs head to the second straight NFC Championship. Same matchup as I've said all season long. It's coming, folks. It's coming. Bucs going back to Lambeau Field. That's what we're going to see again this year in the NFC. That's my score prediction.
17-10 was generous. It was 13-3. But Rams, dude, they've also beat Brady. They also beat Brady last year with Jared Goff on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
So, arguably they do have Brady's number to an extent in recent matchups, but I like the Bucs in this game too much. I like Brady in this game too much against the Rams. I think he's going to win this game in front of the Bucs fans at Raymond James Stadium. I do kind of agree with your original point. I think it could be kind of more of a defensive game, but not defensive enough to keep it too low score. I think the Bucs still score 30. I'm going to go 30-21. 30-22, actually. The final score.
Okay. So it'll be a pretty good game. I like that.
Yeah, 30-22.
All right, so now we are moving on to the final slot. This game is at 6:30. Interesting enough, because it's getting closer to championship weekend. Games will happen sooner. Bills taking on the Chiefs. These two teams faced off back in the early season. The Bills completely dominated them in Arrowhead with a final score of 37-20. That was after they were embarrassed last season there in the AFC Championship game. like Duffy said before, this is kind of a preview. Well, not even a preview. It basically is the AFC Championship game in the AFC happening a week before. But a lot's on the table. Patrick Mahomes last weekend posted 5 touchdowns on 404 passing yards and did throw a pick. However, a touchdown was also thrown by Travis Kelce. They in a game that looked like it was going to be close in that second quarter, ended up going in a half being 21-7. Final score was 42-21. So complete domination. And then once again, we had already talked about Josh Allen's stat line, but over 300 passing yards, 5 touchdowns on the day. He just looks ready to go. The Bills are hot. The Chiefs are hot. It's 2 hot AFC teams coming to play head-to-head once again, and there's a lot at stake in this one.
A lot at stake in this one's right. Every match of last year's AFC Championship game, like you said, but this Buffalo team in a way different spot than they were last year. Sure, they had a better record last year. They were 15-3 heading into that game last year, which is crazy. But this team, I honestly think this team is better than the team last year that went to play Kansas City. Maybe not better per se, but the two teams are definitely more evenly matched this season than last year when they played, despite the records being just about the same. But Kansas City coming off a big one against Pittsburgh, like you said, 42-21, really the first time they've looked like they've clicked on offense in a while. Other than that Pittsburgh game a few weeks ago, that was really the first time that they kind of just were pulling everything out of the playbook. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdown passes, 400 yards. First time he's done either of those since they played Vegas back, I think, in week 11 on Sunday Night Football. So he's looking really hot too, and he really turns up for every single playoff game that he's in. But Josh Allen, I don't know why it's been telling me these last few days, but Josh Allen, the kid that nobody wanted out of high school, the kid that settled to go to a community college and then University of Wyoming, and then goes to the Buffalo Bills, the most snake-bitten franchise in the National Football League in the last 50 years besides the Cleveland Browns. Josh Allen will go to Arrowhead Stadium this weekend, and he will win against Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it's been a great run for the Chiefs. It still is a great run for the Chiefs. They've hosted the last 3 AFC Championship games. They're a phenomenal team. And I think Josh Allen gives us a little piece of NFL history on Sunday night and gives us all a game to remember. The Buffalo Bills are going to win this game. They come off a game where they did not punt the ball once. They have won 6 games in a row. They will not win this game by more than 12 points, I'll tell you that. They will not continue that streak of victories by double-digit margins. It will be close. But Josh Allen and company, I think they are going to avenge their losses, their demons, to good teams like the Bucs, like the Chiefs last year. But they already beat this team once this year. They just got to run the ball well, not turn the ball over and play a near perfect game. And I think the Bills have all the tools to do that. And against the Chiefs, who are a really good football team, and they should win this game. But I just can't also see from a bettor's mindset Vegas letting all the home teams win this weekend. So Bengals, Bills, AFC Championship in Buffalo. You can book your ticket to Ralph Wilson Stadium or whatever it's called now, Buffalo.
Orchard Park, I don't know.
For that matchup.
Wait, let me see.
I think it's Highmark Stadium, and that's what's
Highmark. Yeah, that's the name
of Bills in an upset.
Yeah, I mean, going into this one, you're talking about both teams that towards the midseason, people are looking at and scratching their heads being like, these were 2 dominant teams last season in the AFC. What the hell's going on? Are we seeing a totally different playoff picture this year? Both those teams put that to rest or just around that point. They both got hot. They both did what they needed to do, and they won the games that they have, and they just haven't lost since. There's a lot riding on this game. I guarantee you. I don't care if the Bills have the number 1 defense in terms of yards allowed in the league. It's going to be a shootout because both of these quarterbacks are at the top of their game. It's 2 of the youngest quarterbacks that we will see play continuously throughout the next decade, maybe 2 decades at least, considering people are going up in age and still playing. Tom Brady's the prime example of that. But in this one, Duffy, this was the surprise I was talking about before the show. I'm taking the Bills as well. The Bills, they just have proven to me from that game last week, they're destined for something this year. They've just clicked when it matters, and they've been firing all cylinders ever since. The defense is ready. That offense finally fixed its run game problems, which was my huge issue with them. For Kansas City, they've had run game issues this whole season, but in last week's game against the Steelers, Jerick McKinnon stepped up big time in the pass and the run game. 12 carries for 61 rushing yards, and then 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown through the air. It proves that Kansas City is going to bring a lot to the table because they're well coached. They have a great idea of what they need to do, but the Bills are just going to get hot in this one, and they're not going to be stopped. It's going to be a close one. I don't think it's going to be like the Patriots game, but the final score I have right now in my head is going to be a final score. The Bills kick a game-winning field goal that's punched their ticket one step closer to the AFC Championship by a final score of 38-36.
Wow. That is a great score.
Yeah.
It would be an instant classic if that was the case.
Yeah.
But I think with Buffalo, I think the main key for them to win this game, besides running the ball well, because that's something that they failed to do last year when they lost. Because we were talking about after that game that Buffalo needed a run game this season if they wanted to elevate themselves, to Super Bowl contention. But I think that with Buffalo, they got to keep it a one-score game.
Yeah.
Because you can't let Andy Reid and the Chiefs come out on the field with a 7, 8, 9 point lead on you, because that's how you're going to get beaten. If you remember last year in the AFC Championship game, Chet, the Bills were up in this game 9-0.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
They have that early muff punt by McCole Hardman, and the Chiefs just scored 3 touchdowns in the second quarter, a couple more in the third, and kind of just blew the Bills out of the water. So Bills really got to keep it close to this game if they want to win it.
Yeah.
And if the Chiefs want to win it, they got to take advantage of every mistake the Bills make.
Yeah, because they're going to be looking back at those tapes from early on in the season when they got killed.
Yeah, and that Andy Reid is going to have a lot of stuff up his sleeve. So if the Bills make mistakes, and the Chiefs are going to capitalize on them way better than the Bills would, in my opinion, because the Chiefs are just a different animal. So I think if the Bills play this game with a lead, if they can just score early in the game, and get themselves some early momentum against what has been kind of a raggedy, zigzaggy Chiefs offense all over the place this season, especially the last middle/half of the season. They digressed and they got back up and they looked weird again.
Yeah.
They did not play that great against the good teams in the league. They won a lot of the games. They only scored 13 points in the win against the Packers. Only in Aaron Rodgers less Packers, by the way.
Yeah.
And they scored 19 against Dallas in a game where they could have scored a lot more.
Yeah, and they almost lost
20 against the Bills.
And they almost
all those
lost.
games were at home too. They looked a lot worse at Arrowhead as opposed to in recent years, and it's been weird.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the games like 28-25 over the Vikings, 33-29 over the Browns. Those were home games. And then even on the road, 36-35 to the Ravens, 30-24. Well, like they lost that game. And then they lost in L.A., 30-24. And then they go to Dallas. I mean, they go to Denver at the end of the season. We almost saw them lose that one, but they somehow made adjustments and ended up winning that game 28-24.
Melvin Gordon single-handedly lost the Broncos that game.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever seen a player this is kind of besides the point, but I don't think I've ever seen a player actually single-handedly lose games more than Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
Which do you remember when he fumbled at the goal line against the Titans 2 years ago?
Yeah.
He's on my fantasy team, bro. I lost that week by 4 points.
Oh, Jesus.
To Tyler Krause.
That's even worse. But yeah, my final point with the Chiefs in this one is what we've seen from the Chiefs since Patrick Mahomes has gotten there. Last year was probably the best team I've ever seen them post up. This year,
100%.
It is a total different look than what we got last season. If we got the Chiefs team from last year, I'm taking them 100%. This year, they pose too many question marks because they've lost games by a narrow margin or just won games by a narrow margin. Everything's been a margin with them. With the Bills, when they win, they crush you. So that's what we're looking for. I mean, it's going to be close because this game matters more than anything, really, obviously for anybody. But I just think the Bills have a lot riding on their season right now, and they posted too much of an impressive year for me to doubt them in this one.
I agree. And the Chiefs are really impressive all year. They are every year as long as we're going to have Patrick Mahomes. They're a contender.
Yeah.
But I just have a good feeling about this Bills team. I think this could be the year of Buffalo. I'm a believer in destiny.
Yeah, it's unfortunate as it is.
It's so tough to pick against Patrick Mahomes. I remember last year, I was just saying all playoffs, I'm not picking against Patrick Mahomes, not doing this. He's the future GOAT. But after seeing him get steamrolled in Super Bowl 55 last year, just probably back to the fact that he is human. He can lose any game. So I think the Bills just play good football and play the way they did in Week 6. Great chance to win this game.
Yeah.
And but the Chiefs, they should win this game. They're at home with the loud fans. Got the home of the Chiefs. Got Andy Reid. The cheeseburgers in the locker room after the game. They should win this game, but I think the Bills are going to pull off the upset.
Yeah, I agree.
Give us game to remember. They were Patrick Mahomes.
I hope, because honestly, me and my brother, we were discussing this last weekend. He was kind of like, honestly, that was the most predictable wild card round I've ever watched. And I'm like, yeah, I was honestly kind of disappointed because because I was hoping I knew the other games were going to be a wash, but the Raiders, I had a lot banked on them to kind of pull something. Or Niners. And then the Niners, honestly, that game could have been a whole lot better, in my opinion. It just kind of got boring after a while. And then the Rams game, dude, when I saw they were up 21-0 on them, I was like, I'm not even watching this. This is a waste of time.
Dude, I didn't even watch that game, I'm going to be honest. I fell asleep pretty early on the first quarter.
Yeah. And, I'll be watching all these games this weekend without a doubt. I think this is prime time.
Divisional weekend, in my opinion, I think is the best weekend in the NFL.
Easily, hands down, has to be one of the best
you have
weekends.
The 8 best teams in the league, and it all comes down to this.
Yeah, it all comes down to this. Who moves on? Who will go home? But we'll have to see. In 2 days, we'll be able to get some of those answers, and in 3 days, we'll get the rest. So thank you all once again for tuning into Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. And as a reminder, our locks and picks upsets, it's been a little wishy-washy towards the end of the year. Duffy definitely ran away with it at the end of the day.
Yes.
With a
we just
29
picked the games now.
Yeah, he's a 29-7 record. So I've recorded all of our picks for this week. We will start a playoff pick, basically, record, win, loss, if you get the game right, So basically looking at Duffy's picks, Duffy picked the Bengals, the Packers, the Bucks, and the Bills to walk away with wins, while Chet posted the Titans, the Packers, the Bucks, and the Bills. So
Chet, who did you wholeheartedly pick last week in these games? Because I'll tell you who I wholeheartedly picked in these games so we can make the record.
Oh, for last week?
Yeah, for last week.
I took the Raiders, I took the Bills, and then I took the Bucks, and then the Niners.
All right.
And then the Rams I took. And then was there one other AFC game I'm missing?
See, dude, I came on here and no, let's not even count it because
and then the Chiefs.
Because it's weird because I came on here and said the Bills were gonna win, and then I got bullied into betting the Pats. So I don't even want to count that game, dude.
Are you sure?
There was me saying the Bills were gonna win, but my bet slip says otherwise. So I don't know.
I think we should do it anyways.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, I'll make the record right now. So let's see. You got the Bills, or no? You picked the Pats. So that's let's talk this out.
Give me the Bills, bro. I literally came on here and said the Bills were gonna win.
No, shut up. All right,
fine. Give me the Pats. I did have the Bengals. I did have the Chiefs. I did have the Bucks, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Rams, Cardinals.
I had the Rams.
Yep.
Wait, yeah.
And then you had the Niners.
I had the Niners. Yep.
And then yeah, that makes sense.
Wait, no, I had the Cardinals. Yeah. I had the Cardinals. I switched my mind on Monday.
Okay, so
So I'm 4-2, and you're 5-1.
Yep, and then
cheers.
5-1.
Yeah, it's first lead of the year, baby.
Oh, no, I definitely had a lead in the beginning of this one. I had to. If I fell from grace pretty quickly. But anyways, thank you all once again for tuning into Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Obviously, our times switch up, but always be on the lookout for Wednesday and Thursday. That's when we usually come on here. So Wednesday, Thursday around 6, 7 p.m. That's always when we launch the show. Just tune in around that time week to week. We're going to have coverage on the NFL playoffs, including going into the offseason. We're going to be well talking into the summertime, I'd imagine, before we go on break again. So thank you all once again for tuning into this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy, our divisional round preview. And we will see you all next week to talk about those conference championships, because this weekend's going to be a blast. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, it will be. Sure will be.
All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your week. Have a great night. And most of all, go Pats.
Go Pats.